Hi everybody and welcome to my brand new channel, The Dinosaur in the Library. I've been watching a lot of Booktube lately. I just discovered it. I don't know how I went this long without knowing it was here, but I'm just enjoying the hell out of watching it and I want to get involved and I want to play. So I decided to start this channel. Just by way of introduction, my name is Dawn and I'm a library and information doctoral student. And I read a lot of different things and I'm interested in a lot of different topics, but my research focuses on LGBTQ young adult literature, so I do read a lot of young adult and middle grade and children's fiction and nonfiction, so some of that creeps into my reading. And my master's degree I focused in children's and young adult services, so I kind of got to read a lot then. But I've always loved books, and I have what my wife deems too many, but I always say there's not too many books, there's just not enough space, and I do suffer from a lack of space. But unfortunately, as a doctoral student, I don't get a lot of time to read things on my fun to be read list. So during the semesters, I'm going to try to do these once a week, and during the semester my thought is maybe to do tag videos and books that I'm looking forward to reading, different topics. Maybe, you know, I'll do a couple of weeks, you know, LGBTQ young adult literature or for children, different things like that. And just that, you know, thoughts on books, thoughts on, you know, book culture in general, and we'll see where it goes. And maybe between the semesters I'll get to do a lot more reviewy type videos, but I don't want to ramble on too long in this first video, so I'm just going to hop right in. I decided to do for my very first one just books that I read this year that I really liked. Some of them came out this year, a lot of them didn't, but I just happened to pick them up, and I broke them down into 3 sections, the first one being children's and young adult, so I will just leap right in. The first one is fantasy. It's Bad Unicorn by Platt F. Clark. And I don't know what to say about this other than it's just super cute and I loved it and I thought it was hilarious. It's middle grade fiction, I would say, and I just loved it. And there's supposed to be at least 3 of these. The second one is already out. It's called Fluff Dragon, and I think I asked for it on my Christmas list, so hopefully I'll get it. But the third one is coming out next year. It's called Good Ogre, and I don't know what either one of those is specifically about, but I really want to read them. The second one in the children's and young adult I read because of an international children's and young adult literature class that I took over the summer, and this one is Moribito, Guardian of the Spirit by Naoko Yuahashi. I hope that I said the name correctly. And I've also read the second one, which I do not have. I read it in a library copy, and it's Moribito, Guardian of the Darkness. And they're both excellent books. And there's like 10 of these, but only the first 2 are in English. There's only 2 English translations, let me say that, because they're originally written in Japanese. And Scholastic published the first 2, but they didn't do the translations of the last 8. And I flipped out when I read the second one and found out I can't read the rest of them. And obviously I don't read Japanese or I wouldn't be this upset. So yeah, but I emailed the Japanese publisher and they said, sorry, perhaps email Scholastic and let them know. And I'm going to be doing just that as soon as I remember to do it. The next book I'm talking about is also in a series. I don't know how many are going to be in the series. I hope there's going to be at least one more, and considering the fact that they love to make trilogies out of young adult and children's books, this is very possible. The first one, which I read a year or 2 ago, is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. By Ransom Riggs, and he takes found pictures. I think these are actual photographs that he finds at flea markets, and some of them are super creepy. I won't lie, even though this is a kid's book, some of them are super creepy. And he uses them for the plot and uses them to tie into the story. And I'll tell you, the first time I read this, it took me a few chapters to get into it, but I loved it once I did. And the one that I read this year is the second in the series. It's called Hollow City, and it's the second novel by Ransom Riggs. And here's some of the pictures for this one. These guys creep me out. But it's an excellent sequel. It works really well, and I hope they're going to have at least one more. They did put out a graphic novel, which I have and did not put over here by where I'm sitting, so I don't have it with me. But it's a graphic novel adaptation of the first novel. And it's a really good one. They did a good job of adapting it. So if you like graphic novel adaptations, check that out. And then I don't think I have copies of the rest of these. So Fangirl, I'm just going to run through these fairly quickly. So Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I don't think I have to say a lot about this. Everybody I've watched on Booktube has just loved this book for good reason. I've also read Eleanor and Park, but I read that last year. Loved it. Landline is sitting on my shelf waiting for me, calling my name. I have to keep telling it I'm sorry, but I'll get to it eventually, I promise. Another in a series, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valente. How could you not love a book that has a title like that? I ask you. Seriously? But there are supposed to be at least 6 books according to Goodreads. The last 2 don't have titles yet because the 4th one is just coming out next year. And I'm really looking forward to those because I loved the first one. If I Ever Get Out of Here by Eric Gansworth. It won an honor award for the American Indian Youth Literature Awards for this year. Really good historical novel set in the 70s in upstate New York on a reservation. Deals with poverty and bullying and racism, and just a really, really good read. So if you have time and your library has it, seriously check that one out. And the last one, the last young adult one I think I'm going to mention is Fat Angie by E. Charlton Trujillo. Excuse me for mispronouncing that. It won a Stonewall, a Lambda, it was on the Rainbow list, and it was just an excellent read. I don't know what else I can say about that, but that I really enjoyed it. So the next section I have is graphic novels. The first 2 I do not have physical copies of. I got them from the library. So Fables, the first trade paperback edition. So that one's by Bill Willingham. And I'm really hoping to get the rest of those soon because I love the way that they're doing those. I love the plot and the way that the story is laid out. The characters are great. So I just haven't had a chance to get it. The second one I also don't have is Death Note. I've only read the first 3 volumes because the different volumes are spread all over my local library's branch system, so I haven't had a chance to request them, and I haven't had time to read them, honestly. But those are by Sugumi Oba, and again, please forgive me if I'm butchering these names, but that I loved them so very much. I was very excited. I love the main, whose name is really escaping me right now, the Death character. He's just awesome. So the second 2 I do have copies of. This one I've heard mixed reviews about, and I understand why. Okay, this is The Legend of Bold Riley by Leah Wethington, and I loved this book. And I get the criticisms that the author is white, she's writing about a woman of color, and that can be problematic, but on the side talking about LGBTQ, this is really good. The main character is a lesbian, and honestly, it's just part of the story. It's not made a big deal of. It's just, oh yeah, by the way, she's lesbian. And it's just it's portrayed as normal, which you don't see a lot of times. And I really liked this, despite its problems. So, I mean, if you haven't read this, pick it up, check it out, see what you think. But I thought it was amazing. So Legend of Bold Riley, I loved it. It's a continuing story. There are individual comics coming out now, and I'm behind on those because life is getting in the way of my reading habit, but I really did love this. The last graphic novel I'm going to talk about is a horror graphic novel, and it goes along with the first book I'll talk about in my adult stack. This is Wraith. The story is by Joe Hill, and the illustrator is Charles Paul Wilson III. Super creepy. Check them out. They're going to come after you. That kind of thing. If you haven't read, this goes with Joe Hill's book Nosferatu. And this is spelled like this. That's on the tag of the car. And if you haven't read Nosferatu, you could read this if you like horror graphic novels. You could read this, I think, fairly easily without losing too much, but you are going to lose some pieces of the story. So I would suggest, I read it after, it came out after Nosferatu, but I read it after I read Nosferatu, and, you know, I think I had there was a lot of intricate crap going on in the background that you may not have caught if you didn't read Nosferatu, so just a warning on that. And got them all stacked up wrong. So Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, and he writes horror as well. And this is Nosferatu. Loved, loved, loved this book. You may know his name even if you don't read horror, because he wrote the book Horns, which they based the movie on, that Daniel Radcliffe is in, and it came out last year. I haven't gotten to see it yet. I hope it's really good because I loved that book. I pretty much love everything Joe Hill writes, and it's amazing. There's just great world building. The characters are really cool. Even the villains, they're really well drawn. So, skipping along to his daddy. This is one of Stephen King's most recent books. Revival came out in November. I haven't had a chance to get that yet. It is on my Christmas list. Hopefully I'll get it and get to read it before school starts. But this one is actually, it turns out it's going to be the first in a trilogy, the Bill Hodges trilogy. The second one is Finders Keepers, and it's coming out next year, although I can't remember the exact date. I have it written down somewhere. I really love this cover, by the way. I don't know how well you can see how the blue is metallic, and then the back, nice bloody ice cream truck. If you like horror, you gotta love this. I mean, it's just great. I'm really looking forward to a Revival, too. Everything I've read about it is just phenomenal, so. The next book is the last in a series. I'm pretty sure she's not going to write anymore. And let me preface this by saying, I don't like the new vampire stuff. I did read the first Sookie Stackhouse novel, did not care for it, so I never read the rest of them. And I really hate Twilight. And I know a lot of people do love it, and that's great. If you do, more power to you. And I'm sure a lot of people love Sookie Stackhouse, and I'm sorry, I just don't like either one. But I am obsessed with the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. And if you did not know, she recently published this one, which is the first Lestat novel in quite a number of years. And I, along with a good number of people, did not really care for the way that the series supposedly ended, because everybody thought that the series was over with the last two books, Blackwood Farm and Blood Canticle. And it's not that they weren't good books, because Anne Rice is just a really good writer, and I love the Vampire Chronicles, but they just weren't that great, considering that the series was so awesome. And and I didn't love this one as much as I expected, but I did give it 5 stars because she brought Lestat back, and that made me happy. So there's that. Another series, although this one is not fantasy. This is Nora Bonesteel's Christmas Past by Sharon McCrum. It is actually a novella, and it's part of the Ballad Novels series. And I love this. It's signed. I'm so excited to get this. They're mostly set current day, but there's a lot of historical. A couple of her recent ones have been completely historical, so set completely in the past. But they have a lot to do with Appalachian culture, and my grandmother's family is from the hills of North Alabama, so I'm familiar with a lot of that, and these are just really good books. This one, there's not as much room for her to plot build and backstory build and insert a lot of the history and culture, but there is a lot of that in here, and it's a good book. Even though it's really short, I'm not sure I would suggest starting with this one, just because you're not going to know the characters, and all these characters continue through all the books. The very first one is If Ever I Return, Pretty Peggy O, and they're all phenomenal. Most of them have mysteries involved. You should pick it up. This one, as far as I know, is not part of a series. Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. And I originally thought this was a young adult novel when I first got it, or when I first heard about it. And then I ended up with a free copy of it from somewhere. I honestly can't remember where I got the copy from. But it's awesome. It's about books. I'm a librarian. I can't help it. I love things about books. And this is awesome. So, and if you're keeping track, this next book is probably the only quote-unquote grown-up book I'm reading. But it's Bell Hooks, Teaching to Transgress, Education as the Practice of Freedom. And one of my undergraduate degrees is in women's studies, so I love being able to use feminist theory and feminist thought in a lot of my research. And I'm working on inserting margin to center in some of my actual research for my doctoral dissertation and things like that. Or I'm hoping to be able to use it anyway when I get started on that. I'm just in my first semester. But it's a really good book if you're involved in education at all. It's just about how to use education to promote freedom of thought and social justice. And especially with current events, this is incredibly important. So pick it up. It's a little bit older. It's from 94. Still good. Still good stuff. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one because everything else kind of ties together. So this is one of the first books I read as soon as the semester was over. Unbound by Jim C. Hines. And this is the third book in the Magic X Libris series. This is an advanced reader copy I won from Goodreads, and you just have no idea how excited I was when I won this book. I was freaking out. It is the third book, like I said. The first book is Libriomancer, and the second is, it's kind of hard with this camera, but Codex Born. And they're amazing fantasy novels. They have to do with books. The main character, this guy, Isaac, is a librarian. I don't know how much more I need to say for you there, but I love these. So if you like fantasy, you like books, you like things like that, pick these up for sure. And he's already got the fourth one written. I don't know if it's the last one. I really hope it's not. I kind of want this series to go on forever. But we all want our favorite series to go on forever, so I don't know how original that is. Okay, so I only have, I promise, 4 more books to talk about. And they all are tied in with this. I read H.G. Wells' The Time Machine probably for the first time when I was about 10 years old. And this is still one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite book of all time. And I love it. I love time travel. It is the reason I love time travel. Time travel and alternate history are my 2 favorite genres. And anything that has to do with the time machine at all, I'm going to leap on. I like H.G. Wells in general. I like Jules Verne, those kind of people, but Time Machine is my original love. So, this book, Morlock Night by K.W. Jeter, was written as a sequel to The Time Machine, and it was put out by Angry Robot Books, which does a lot of good stuff. So, you should look them up. They have a lot of good titles in their catalog. But if you like The Time Machine, if you like time travel, definitely pick this up. You may want to read The Time Machine before you read this if you haven't, but Time Machine is super, super short. It's practically a novella instead of a novel, but great stuff here. The next series is also tied directly with H.G. Wells. This is the first book in the series, and I had read it before this year, but I reread it this year, so I'll put it in here. It's The Map of Time by Felix J. Palma, and this is the first book in the what's the name of this series? Trilogia Victoriana, and he is Spanish, so these are translated novels, and I just happened to find this on Amazon, honestly, and bought this, and absolutely fell in love with the world. H.G. Wells is an actual character in the novel, and this one focuses on Time Machine, and this is the one I read this year. This is the second book, The Map of the Sky, and it focuses on War of the Worlds. And I don't know if you can see the covers really well, but I just think they're gorgeous. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I think they're beautiful. The third book has already been published, but only in Spanish. It's The Map of Chaos, and it has a lot to do with H.G. Wells again, but focuses around Invisible Man. And I think Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has a guest appearing spot in this, but unfortunately, even though the first 2 were published in translation not too long after the originals came out, the third one isn't coming out in English until next June. So I am just miserable over this because I really want to read it, and I'm not going to be able to read it in June. I'm going to buy it June 30th when it comes out. If I can't find it here, I'll order it, but I'm not going to have a chance to read it till August because that's in the middle of my summer semester. I'll be doing work and not able to stop to read my time travel books, and that makes me very sad. But the last book I'm going to talk about is the one I'm currently in the middle of, and it's the Mammoth book of time travel sci-fi. So I was doing Christmas shopping for my brother. We buy books in my family. That's just how it is. Everybody gets books. You may get other stuff from me, but you're going to get a book. My goddaughter has a stack of books waiting for her over there. So this is, as it says very clearly, time travel sci-fi short stories. I picked it up because time travel, hello. There was another one that I wanted to get that was a little bit bigger, but it was also twice as much. It was $30, and this one was like $14. So the reason I picked this up so quickly is because of the David J. Lake story, The Truth About Weena. If you've read The Time Machine, you know that means the story is tied to The Time Machine, and it is written as a sort of sequel to The Time Machine, and I love it. And he actually wrote a sequel to The Time Machine in 1981 called The Man Who Loved Morlocks. I have to find that book. It's apparently really hard to find. I can't locate the stupid thing. But I will. I've already requested it interlibrary loan through my university's library. I'm going to have this book. And then the other story that I read that I just fell in love with was Time Gypsy by Ellen Klages. And if you read middle grade fiction or anything, you probably recognize her name. She wrote The Green Glass Sea, which I don't think came out that long ago. And then she has a sequel to that too, which I can't remember the name of. But the first one is about the Manhattan Project, and it's written from a middle grade perspective, which sounds really interesting. I haven't had a chance to pick it up. But this story is an LGBT story, and it's time travel. I could not love this story more if I tried. The second I finished reading it, I went to Goodreads and rated that specific story by itself because I loved it so much. So there's that. If you place any stock in my opinion at all, go out and get this book. Borrow it from your library. Borrow it from somebody who already has it. However you need to get it. I'm pretty sure they have it on Kindle. I just prefer physical books. You will find this out about me. I have read Kindle books before if it's not available in hardcover or hard copy, but I'm going to buy a hard copy in paperback if at all possible. But I think this is available in Kindle. I'm not sure. I got this at Barnes & Noble, so check Amazon if you want to read this. But that's all the books I had that I wanted to talk about. I could have talked about a million more, but I don't want to run this video too long. I'm going to link my Goodreads profile down below. You can see the other kind of things I read. I'm also going to link my Twitter. And so yeah, if you guys want to follow me, I would really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and come back for some more fun. Hopefully I'm going to do these, like I said, about once a week. And I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun already, so I'm looking forward to my next video. And everybody have an awesome day and have a happy holiday if you celebrate. If you don't, just have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next week. Bye.